obviously I'm privileged to be here to present on behalf of my colleagues in O-RAN Alliance working very hard in NGRG. So Tao has done the excellent presentation. I mean, he has pretty much covered all the slides that we have in details, right, within a very short time frame. For myself, I'll just try to touch on the highlights, and then we can try to get you to the panel discussion as soon as possible. And I wanted to maybe just show the co-leaders again, so that would be Vikas from Reliance Jio, Anku from Rakuten Mobile, and Richie from ZTE. Again, a very good mix of operators and vendors, right, through all the work and streams and working groups, task groups, focus groups we have in O-RAN Alliance. Maybe just picked up a few key points about what we do in Research Stream 01 for use cases and standards gap analysis. So as Havish and Tao has mentioned, right, it's a really new group. And for us, it's not about reinventing the wheel, right? There are many, many use cases. There are many, many speculations about potentially what 6G can do for us, right? Not just focusing on the smartphones. I think 5G, we try that to get beyond, right, smartphones. I think we're getting there, but from the 6G research perspective, O-RAN Alliance is really taking a pragmatic approach in terms of looking at what are the real use cases, right, that can really make an impact to the industry. It's less of, open versus non-open RAN. It's more about what Open RAN from an enabler perspective can really help to enable the use cases that really make sense for all of us, right? So I think Tao has mentioned all of that, but one thing that would actually be different is that obviously in O-RAN Alliance, we focus on multi-vendor interoperability, right? Not just from a functional perspective, but from performance, security, energy savings, sustainability. So we look at the key use cases, the business drivers, and then as well as breaking it down into the rest of the research streams, including AI, ML, what problems are you trying to solve, right? So this is really a pivotal group that we are having right now, that we got all the working groups, focus group, task groups, focusing on developing specifications for what the use case that we know today, right? This is basically setting the cornerstone for what's going to be for tomorrow. So some of the questions we start off with, again, this group is very new, but there are lots of focus in terms of getting this right. So in terms of the expectations and the new use cases, the value add from the next next steps perspective. So it's not like working in closed doors, but we're trying to open up the doors and try to get academias, just everyone, including non-O-RAN Alliance members, to really join the forum and start the discussion and then go through the distillation process. And the key value system capabilities. So for example, we had some very interesting discussions about, okay, if we want a net zero network, right? What does it really mean, right, from a business driver perspective? Obviously, help operators to save a lot of money from an OpEx perspective. Energy costs, they're climbing for sure. It's really hitting, right, or impacting the revenues, right, of the operators and slowing down the rollouts of the 5G networks. So this is one that we have actually looked at in terms of like, how do we actually go back, right, to look at distilling the information and then really getting to the gaps. So the work plans, there are 3 phases, right? Number 1 is to gather the use cases and requirements. Again, what really matter to us in O-RAN Alliance. One thing that we don't cover, as you know already, right? We don't really look at specifying the next generation and the phase, sub-terahertz, right? Going to the mid bands and stuff like that. But obviously, there are key strengths, as Tao has very well explained in terms of what we do in O-RAN Alliance within the radio access network. Then the second phase, we get into the selection and prioritization of the use case, the requirements, and the gap analysis. And the final phase, right, is basically to get to a white paper, focusing on the use cases that will make sense for O-RAN Alliance. Okay, so just snapshots of the current discussion topics. As I mentioned, right, sustainability, net zero emission, right, is one of the key ones. Immersive services, I think that's not new, but there are lots of discussions around how would the use cases of metaverse, right, depending on what sort of metaverse services that we're expecting to get commercialized, that would actually deliver, right, real tangible value for human beings like us, and as well as connecting between us and robots and other things, that will really impact the networks, right? These are the requirements that we do not handle today in O-RAN Alliance based on current specs. Then we talk about real-time intelligence, analytics. Obviously, there's some work that we're doing right now for 5G. But taking it beyond, right, to the next steps, what can AI, ML really enable us to do, right? From a 6G use cases perspective, the team has decided to take a fresh look and say, let's try to look at it differently, not just from an evolution perspective, but from a revolution perspective. I think NTN satellites, right? 5G Advanced is coming through. I think NTN is one that we should look at as well. For example, from base station perspective, I think that's really important for 6G. And then the other things, right, in terms of quantum processing and the further items, right? So I'll say we're looking at a range of things. I'll really say that, we are very fortunate that we have a lot of colleagues already in the industry references that we basically go through. You can try to go through the list here, but we are not planning to reinvent the wheel, right? O-RAN Alliance, we're never about reinventing the wheel. We're really about leveraging the best-in-class knowledge from the global ecosystem and look at where we can try to drive and create value for the industry, okay? And I just wanted to call out the contributors: AT&T, Cohere, DTAC, Ericsson, Rakuten, Reliance Jio, SK Telecom, STL. They're really driving a lot of the use cases and requirements work that we have today. Obviously, there are more companies right behind the scenes. Okay, so concluding remarks. Just want to summarize in a few words, right? In my words, that we're really looking for innovation in O-RAN, right? I mean, this team is very open. I work in various standards and forums, just like my colleagues here. But O-RAN Alliance is really a place that you can come, you can give your ideas, and all ideas are good ideas. There's never a bad idea, right? So we're starting from scratch, leveraging from the best-in-class, right? The knowledge that's already been built, collaborating with the rest of the ecosystem, and really build, right? Distill the most important use cases and requirements, and obviously the gaps, right? That's going to be driving O-RAN Alliance for the next stage of the technology evolution. Okay, with that, thank you. Havish? Or Tao? Thanks.